Hare Krishna. So welcome to everyone. Hare Krishna to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Yes, some question?
Raj,
Yeah.
there is a question from Lakshmi Rani Didi, Mauritius. Dandavats, thank you for uploading all the lectures. I will be grateful to have some enlightenment about the following. There are times when we have sinned a lot, and when the realization comes, we feel a lot of regret. Krishna says that he can save us from the reactions of so many sins if we surrender fully. But the thing is, after we can situate ourselves as the most fallen souls, we are no longer interested in being saved from the reactions of those sins. In some way, it is one reason for us to give the best of ourselves in Seva, to do our best to please Krishna. But still, it is not easy to come to terms that we could have sinned so much. It is like the kind of feeling we have when we hurt our father, and after realizing it, we will ask for forgiveness and do our best to please him all the time. But it is not until he has forgiven us that we can get rid of this guilt from our heart and strengthen our bond with him. After realization of our sins, if we do Seva with the mood of enjoying the transcendental bliss that we get while doing it, even then I do not feel that it is okay. So what should we do in this case? With what mood to do Seva? And if we do Seva for the act of purifying ourselves, then also it is like doing it for our own selfish motive. So eventually, with what mood to do Seva?
It should more accurately be said, with what mood shall we do anything, right? And the mood is Seva. It's not what is the mood of Seva, right? We're told, Sevan mukhe hijavaru shayameva spurtada. The current of Seva. Srila Repurposing Goswami says, Atak Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavyed Grahyam Indriye, that the name of Krishna, the form of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna, they're beyond the range of the senses. And that includes the mind. Right? So he's saying that all of these things that we aspire to, they're beyond the grasp of our mind and senses. So then what are we doing? He says, the second part gives us hope. He says, Sevan mukhe hijavaro shayameva spurtida. If all of these activities are part of the current of Seva, then there may be, spuratida means Krishna may reveal himself. Right? There's the Nava Bhakti, 9 different types of devotional service, given in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Right? So hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. Srila Guru Maharaj will say that the great Bhagavad commentator Sridhar Swami says, Addo pascharpita paschad kriyeta. Addo arpita. He's saying, for this to actually be called Seva, there has to be some self-giving. Right? And that means it must be done for the pleasure of Krishna. So it's alluded to in what she says. If she's saying, what is that spirit? In the spirit of doing something for Krishna. But more specifically, because we may say, well, I don't know Krishna, but Guru and Vaishnav. So we're told to do Vaishnava Seva, and also, Guru Seva. We take Guru as the surrogate of Krishna's dearmost. So, in other words, if at the base, and she addresses this, if the reason for our hearing, chanting, remembering, etc., is to please ourselves, then it's not service proper. Right? It's for the pleasure of Krishna, the pleasure of Krishna's devotees. So, ado arpita paschad kriyeta. He's saying at the basis of all of these things. When there was a book that was popular about Gauranga Mahaprabhu, say at the turn 19th to 20th century, and even Guru Maharaj said, as a college student, you know, that he devoured it not like nectar. That's before coming in connection with Gaudiya Math. But when that book was mentioned in the time of Saraswati Thakur, the devotees wanted to know, does he approve this? He said, Nija Bhoge Gorila Gauranga. Nija Bhog means what's pleasing to him. He's saying the author, because he collected something from Chaitanya-charitamrita, from Chaitanya Bhagavad, from Chaitanya Mangal, and various places, and he assembled that. And Saraswati Thakur's response was, he's presented the Gauranga that entertains him, that's pleasing to him. Right? He said, a man of substance won't find anything there. Right? So what's at the basis of all of these activities? So that which is meant for the pleasure of Krishna. We know in the Shikshastakam, particularly the 8th sloka, and remember the Shikshastakam, really they are sentiments expressed from the heart of Srimati Radharani, and Mahaprabhu is mirroring her sentiments. All of the things he expresses really are attributable to her. And think of this way, and this is the last chapter of the Chaitanya-charitamrita, so it's the conclusion, so it's the last chapter of Charitamrita, the last verse of the Shikshastakam. And what does she say? Asli Shava Paratam Panastumam Adarshanam Marmahatam Kurotuva Yatatata Varadatu Lampato Mat Prana Natastu Sareva Napara. So the interesting word, all are, but of particular interest here is adarshanam. She is saying, Mahaprabhu expressing, if Krishna's happiness is to not reveal himself to me, then that is my happiness. She can say that, we will say, oh, we're not like, we're thinking, no, the opposite of that. If Krishna will show himself to me, then I'll be very happy. But see what not only devotion, but the highest sort of devotion is saying, whatever pleases him, that's what I want. And if pleasing Krishna, if pleasing him means not revealing himself to me, then that's also good. So whatever pleases him, adarshanam, right? Not to be seen. And on this note, we may say, well, adarshanam, that's something we can relate to. Not seeing Krishna. And Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says, if by chanting the holy name of Krishna, back to that sloka of Rupa Goswami, Atakshri, Sevan mukhe hijivaro shayameva sportida. So taking Krishna Nam, surcharged with the serving spirit, which Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, what is the word he uses? Bala, meaning hriday bala, that powered by heart. He's saying, not the inverse, that you're taking Krishna Nam, you're vibrating the sound, and it's entering your ear and purifying your heart. He's saying, no, your heart, under the influence of Guru and Vaishnav, and surcharged with the current of service, Seva, means, again, for Krishna, he's saying, then from the heart to the tongue, That's the way the holy name of Krishna is expressed. So, still, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says, devotees might think or ask, I've been chanting for so long, why has Krishna not revealed himself to me? Right? Sometimes Gurudev would say to Guru Maharaj, there are all these things that are said about the holy name of Krishna. And he said, anyone has got that? You know? So, we just say, Koti Mukta Durlabh Madhye Ek Krishna Bhakta. Out of 10 million liberated souls, one may be a devotee of Krishna. And Guru Maharaj will say, oh, even that is too many. So is Guru Maharaj trying to discourage us? Or, and what he would say is, no, Krishna Nam is so high, so wonderful, so heart-devouring, that after lifetimes of not getting that thing, you can't give up the pursuit. He's saying that's how compelling Krishna is. When we say, Krishna is all attractive, Guru Maharaj will say, to what degree? That not get a darshanam, not getting him for numerous lifetimes, can't give up the pursuit. That addictive, that charming, that sweet, that compelling. So Vishwanath, in answering this question, he says, so devotees may think, like, I've been chanting the holy name of Krishna, and why does Krishna not reveal himself to me? And he says, very simply, he said, because Krishna knows that your heart is capable of more. And perhaps that is the answer to this question. On the one hand, about all the sinfulness, that was the word used repeatedly, Gurudev gave a very beautiful example. He's saying, say a room is dark, a dark room. He said, say it's been dark for, it could have been dark for a year, 10 years, 100 years, 1,000,000 years, 100 million years. But when you bring light, it doesn't matter how long it was dark, right? Or these degrees. That's the purifying power of the holy name of Krishna. There's no amount, and service to Krishna, there's no amount of sinfulness that is too much. And in this regard, I'm reminded of something when Guru Maharaj used to tell this story of Achyutananda Swami going to Jagannath Puri. And this is long ago. And of course, the Western devotees will wonder why they're not allowed to enter. And Guru Maharaj will reference Mahaprabhu's time and say, Mahaprabhu did not interfere with their customs. Whatever, and I have my own story with regard to Srila Bhakti Dvaita Madhav Maharaj, who reminded me when I was lamenting with similar feelings. He's saying, Haridas Thakur did not enter, Rupa Goswami did not enter, Sanatan Goswami Prabhu did not enter. No. But at this time, Achyutananda Maharaj is very clever, and so they're saying, well, you can't enter in this lifetime because you engaged in certain types of sinful activities that it'll take a lifetime to overcome. So, get back to us in your next lifetime. And such things as, say, meat eating. Right? So he said to them, in your opinion, which has greater power, which has more potency, the contamination of eating meat, right, or the purifying power of the holy name of Krishna? Which in your opinion has greater power? Guru Maharaj like that responds very much. And so, with regard to sinfulness, there's Krishna's personal guarantee. Sarva dharmam parityajya mam ekam sharanam braja. And it's interesting because we could say that generally speaking, the Shastra or scriptures are encouraging one to be dharmic, right? To lead a dharmic life. Right? But here, and Krishna examines with Arjuna all the different possibilities of why he should do his duty, be dharmic. Right? But this is in the 18th chapter. And there, it's a bold statement, it's somewhat shocking. Krishna says, Sarva dharmam parityajya mam ekam sharanam braja. At last, Arjuna, give up even all dharmas, not other things. Dharma, give that up and just surrender to me. It's a bold and shocking statement. Because if you think, well, wait, I thought dharma was the good thing. Right? Now you're saying, give that up and just surrender to me. Remember, Krishna is that person who, when he's asleep or half asleep, his breathing is dharma. Right? He's the source of all of this. So if he says to give it all up and just surrender to me, then that must be the conclusion of why you would be engage in dharmic behavior to begin with, is to bring you to the position of surrendering to Krishna. And as we said in the beginning, adho arpita paschad kriyeta, and that will be at the basis of all truly devotional activities. Right? Self-surrender, self-offering, doing for Krishna. But to one who thinks, if I give up all of these so-called responsibilities, duties, obligations, then there may be some fault on my part. Right? And others may see fault on your part. To that, Krishna says, ahang tang sarva papebhyo. Sarva pap is the word she's rendered as sin. Ahang tang sarva papebhyo moksha ishami masuchaha. He's saying, don't worry about whatever impending karmic reaction there may be apparently for abandoning this duty and surrendering to me. I'll absorb that. Right? That's Krishna's promise. And but we see in the example of the braja-gopis that no such concern. Right? That is what Uddhava observed when, on the plea of delivering a letter from Krishna to assuage the separation that the braja-gopis are feeling in their heart. That's one part, that's true. But he also wanted Uddhava to be the observer of something. Right? They're gopi bhav, you can say. Because as we've mentioned before, and this is the theme, the message, the ultimate message of the Bhagavatam. I say, no, the Bhagavatam, I thought it's, the book about Krishna. It is. But the book about Krishna is telling you that if you're going to have any substantial Krishna conception or devotion, it will only be had through a connection with his devotee. So, when Guru Maharaj met the Shrutadhar, right? Shrutadhar means someone who can remember everything they've heard perfectly. Right? So he meets someone who knows the entire Bhagavatam, 18,000 slokas, it's generally taken to be. We've seen how Prabhupada's 60 volumes. Right? So And they have a little interaction, and so Guru Maharaj says to him, in your estimation, who are the highest devotees in the Bhagavatam? And he says, Chatushan, the 4 Kumars. Right? What do you say? And Guru Maharaj said, with all due respect to the 4 Kumars, Guru Maharaj said, they're in the lower position. And then with 2 slokas out of the 18,000, he proves his point. The first one being, na tata priyatama atmayonirna shankara na cha sankarshana na shri naivatma cha yatha bhavan. Krishna is singing the glories of Uddhava. Right? And it's very, how he, I say, incrementally establishes his position. It's not a random collection of names, who he says they're increments. Natata priyatama atmayoni. That means self-born, Brahma. So he's saying, he's more dear to me than Brahma, who came from the lotus navel of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, right? One of my Purusha avatars. Na Shankara. So then who would be above Brahma? That's the sequence. Shankar, Seva, right? In other places say, Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu. And he's saying, he's more dear to me than Shankar. Oh. Nacha Sankarshan. Sankarshan means, in one sense, his own brother. Like, so it keeps getting ratcheted up. Who's next? Shri. Lakshmi. And then the ultimate surprise, Naivatma Chayatapavan. He's more dear to me than I am to myself. And I think, how is that even possible? Right? More dear to me than even myself. So in this first verse, Guru Maharaj establishes the position of Uddhava. Right? Then what comes from the mouth of Uddhava? That's important. And we can take note that in the braja-gopis of Sanatana Goswami Prabhu, who Guru Maharaj describes as the Bhakti Siddhanta Acharya. Right? So he's, again, step by step, incrementally taking us toward a particular understanding, a particular conclusion, Siddhanta, Bhakti Siddhanta. Right? Twice, it's 14 chapter, twice, once at the end of the first section, and this verse appears near the end of the second section. And what is it? From the mouth of Uddhava, who's now been established, certified by Krishna to be the topmost devotee. So we think, oh, well, that's the end of the story right there? Not yet. Asamaho charanarenu jashama hangsham brindavane apigumalato sadinam yadushtajam swajanamarjapatam chahitva bejur mukunda parivim shrutibir rimigyam. So he's saying, my aspiration, after delivering this letter, I read the letter. I couldn't help but notice when I was reading the letter that the way that this was received by the braja-gopis, and particularly the topmost braja-gopi, Radharani, who spun off in her own divine madness and vented from her divine heart the Brahma Gita. We mentioned recently when Guru Maharaj was thinking retirement, that we ended with him in Navadvip establishing Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat. But first place he considered was Uddhav Kyari in Vrindavan. And what is that place? That's the place where Srimati Radharani, the Brahma Gita, was vented from. Like, that's where Guru Maharaj gets lava, volcanic eruptions. This is where it comes from. He's saying the Shikshastakam is volcanic eruptions. These are not mild pronouncements. He's calling them volcanic eruptions of heart. And what is the volcano? When the maximum amount of pressure is put on it, when it can no longer contain that flow, right? A volcanic eruption, right? And the lava comes out. So he's comparing it to the heart. When the heart is put under the maximum amount of pressure, and what does that mean to the devotional heart? Separation, right? Bahye visajalahoy, bitare anandamoy, Krishna prema adbhuta charit. This is the subject matter of the Chaitanya-charitamrita. Really, in a sense, beginning, middle, and end. Whereas the Bhagavatam culminates in the presentation of Madhura Rasa, Guru Maharaj said, Chaitanya-charitamrita is an exclusively Madhura Rasa literature throughout. And what is the emphasis upon? As in the words of Srila Gurudev, what is Mahaprabhu's tasting matter? Separation. That's at the point where the greatest amount of pressure is placed upon the heart, and what type of love and affection will come out at that time. So Guru Maharaj is saying, like volcanic eruptions of ecstatic emotions and expression. So Uddhava, being the eyewitness to that, does he say, oh, then I want to be one of them. That's my aspiration. I want to be one of them. No, he is a proper devotee. He's not an imposter. He's not he doesn't want something cheaply. He's not an imitationist. He has proper angle of vision to understand how exalted they are. So what is his aspiration? To get the least connection with that plane. The highest aspect of himself offered in service to the least aspect of that plane. So he says, if I could take birth as a creeper or a blade of grass, just an atomic presence in that plane, when Radharani and braja-gopis are moving in the plane of service, remember? Service, seva, that current, and this is where that current reaches its zenith point and highest quality and highest quantity, and mercifully, inconceivably, through our Guru Varga, that current is descended into this plane. How should you do? Thinking that you've achieved the ultimate good fortune. That would be a way. I think it is my inconceivable good fortune to have the least connection with this. It is that plane, this current goes to there. Oh, how fortunate we are. Not, oh, today I don't feel good. Tomorrow I feel good. That's just being in the world. Tam titikshasva bharata. Krishna is saying, Arjun, tolerate it. It's like the changing seasons. But remember, what inconceivable good fortune we have to even remotely touch that plane through service, to touch that current. This is the proper appreciation of the devotee. It's always measured in the inverse. If there's some genuine appreciation, it will be in showing the greatest appreciation or eagerness, magnitude of eagerness for the least sort of service or connection with that plane. So he says, a creeper, a blade of grass, right? And What do we hear from Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Radha Padman Kitadam Vrindavan Jaranam. What is Vrindavan proper? We'll say, the land of Krishna. Right? Undoubtedly. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur chooses to give a different emphasis here, saying, Radha Padman Kitadam. It's that Chinmoy soil. Right? What is Chinmoy soil? Consciousness enriched with the highest sort of dedicating tendency. From the ground up, the spiritual world is constructed of dedicating tendency, serving current. And what does he say? That Chinmoy soil that is embellished by the lotus footprints of Srimati Radharani, that is Vrindavan. And so Uddhava, we're told by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur and others that really he would like to ask them for the dust of their lotus feet. But he knows they won't do that because they're, except for Krishna consciousness, they're well behaved. They're perfect in every way. Because in Krishna consciousness, it's sarva dharmam. And he says, Shruti bir vrimrigyam, what the Vedas and the Shrutis are aspiring for. These girls, they've got it. It's their possession. And they can give it to others. They can give this connection. But he's saying, then you say, then Uddhava, ask them. They have so much respect. They could say, Uddhava, Krishna himself says, you're such a great devotee, you're greater than Brahma, then how does it go? Brahma and Shiva and Sankarshan and Goddess Shri. How can we can't give you our feet dust, never. We will take your feet dust, you're such a great devotee, it may give us devotion, increase our devotion to Krishna. So he knows that they will not give what he wants. And what he's thinking, if I could get the dust from they're so great, so exalted, if I get the dust from their lotus feet, that would be good for me. So if I, in a hidden way, maybe they're not paying attention to the grass or the creepers. So he's saying, if I'm a blade of grass or a creeper, and then they're walking in service to Krishna, because that's the only way they walk, right? You see, then some of the dust from their lotus feet will come upon my head and thereby consecrate my existence. That's how he's thinking. Right? So really, if we want to make progress, we'll absorb ourselves in thoughts and service to the superior devotees, those who are superiorly developed in Krishna consciousness. Sadhu Sangha Satovare. Right? We're talking in the same line, the same sort of pursuit, but superior in experience and qualifications and service. And by that association, it may awaken self-dedicating tendencies within us. Always the cure is association. Atma samiksha, or self-analysis, is a good thing, right? But not to the point of being dysfunctional, right? Debilitating, where we're unable to move. When in Los Angeles, in perhaps 1971, Srila Prabhupada was there, and he would come in and greet the deities, sit on his vyasasana and give a class every morning. And myself and other devotees, we had to do particular services, and when they were done, we could go to the class. So that made us serve at warp speed. It's like one of those films where you speed it up 8 times, or we were moving very quickly to get all these things done so we could go. So this godbrother of mine we'd finished everything, and I said, all right, Prabhu, let's go and hear Srila Prabhupada. And he said, oh, I can't go. I said, why? He said, I'm too sinful, I'm too fallen. And at first I was kind of impressed. I was thinking like, oh, why didn't I say that? That's good. I'm too sinful, I'm too fallen. And then I went, wait a minute. I said, isn't that the idea that we're sinful and fallen? And we go hear from Prabhupada, and by hearing from him, we have some hope, some prospect. Not that we cut ourselves off from the very thing that can cure us. Right. So, and that reminds me of another time in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada giving lecture on this verse that comes from Narada to Vyas on this subject. This is Amayo yascha bhutanam jayate yena suvrita tadeva hyamayam dravyam na punati chikirtsitam. So it's very beautiful, because remember, Vyas, he gave Mahabharata, Puranas, Vedas, all these things, and he was feeling despondent. Like, I'm not getting the desired result from people. At best, they're becoming dharmic. But Krishna, you're telling everyone to give that up and surrender to you. I'm trying to get them to do that. And in the name of Dharma, they're not surrendering to you. What to do? I think, then you need to tell them about Radharani and the braja-gopis. Right? Kimba Bhagavata Dharma na prayena nirupita priya paramahansanam tadeva hyachuta priya. Tell them about Achyuta Priya. Tell them about Radharani and the braja-gopis, that type of devotion, and that they can have a connection with that plane. But so he says in this verse, does not a thing which was the cause of a disease become the cure for that very disease when applied therapeutically? Right? And it mentions milk. And I may have told that at that time, this was in Vrindavan, and many devotees would hear about the legendary sweet rubbery. So like on our list of things I gotta do, is experience rubbery. Because each place, Bengal has the sandesh and the rasgullas and Misti Doi, and so many Bengali sweets are second to none. But other places have other kinds. So this was a specialty of Vrindavan. Right? And you could say, by hook or by crook, in a hidden way, somehow devotees were experiencing rubbery. And what it is, it's so much milk that's condensed down into such a small amount that if you overindulge, and you can overindulge easily, because even a small amount is a lot, you'll get, what shall we say, indigestion? That's the most polite word. You'll have some stomach problem. What did Gurudev call it? Stomach trouble, stomach problem? Things like that. So while he's giving this lecture, he knows how we're all suffering from this. And this is the verse that's saying, does not a thing that was the cause of a disease when applied therapeutically become the cure? So he said, just like if one overindulges in sweets, I don't know. He said, then if you take some yogurt, he's telling us in the middle of a class, like the cure. He's saying, so take some yogurt, put some black pepper, gomorich, some lime, and chira, flat rice. Right? Mix that together. But in this case, he was building a temple, and they're saying, well, there's so many temples in Vrindavan, who needs another one? right? But he's saying, no, but maybe in time, although the deities are there, that the ideal or the conception has been modified or even lost in some cases, so it needs to be restored. But here, in a similar way, we can say, due to varieties of sense engagement, right, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, all of it, right, that we've been distracted from the original purpose of our senses, and accepting substitutes for Krishna, we've become entangled with so many other things, and now we're experiencing the karmic reactions for all of the, she uses the word sinful, right, sinful activities. And now those impending karmic reactions are there, and we hear Krishna saying, no, just surrender to me and I'll protect you from all of that. And what she's alluding to is when you say, all right, I believe that, but here's the problem, I'm not a surrendered soul. Right? Well, that's not an argument for becoming less surrendered. Right? It's an argument for trying. Right? With Uddhava, Krishna says, Jata Shraddha Matkatasu Nirvina Sarvakarmasu Veda Dugatmakan Kaman Purityage Pyanisra. He says, my devotees, they may be, what is the word? There may be lingering mundane desires and attraction and involvement in the mundane. So, but they lament that, as she is doing. You can see it's with a mode of lamentation, to lament this situation. So Krishna, it's beautiful, he's telling Uddhava, I'm aware of that. Right? And they lament. He said, but Jata Shraddha Matkatasu Nirvina Sarva Karmasu, because they have faith in hearing about me, and they like to hear about me, and they aspire to serve me. In time, these things will vanish. In time, they will become fully surrendered souls. Just as when Srila Saraswati Thakur was giving Harinam initiation to someone, Guru Maharaj said during the war he was a spy. Right? So Saraswati Thakur, that gave him some inspiration to give like a military type example. And so it's at the time of giving Harinam, and he said, Pravishta Karna Randrena Swanam Bhava Sororuham Dunoti Shamalam Krishna Shalayasha Yatasharat. It's the Bhagavatam telling of the cleansing effects of the holy name of Krishna, which enters the heart through the ear. Right? The entrance to the heart is through the ear. Right? The spiritual path is ashe shrutekshita, to see through hearing. Right? So, Krishna karnamritam, Krishna nectar for the ear. So he's giving Harinam, it's going to be heard, and so what does he tell that man? He said, Krishna should be allowed to land in your heart. Right? He said, like the Navy brings the army to the beach. Right? And what do? That boat they come on, the door comes down, and then the army comes out, and then one man comes and plants a flag on the soil and claims that for them. Then what do? They start gaining ground, right, and moving the flag. He said, so Krishna should be allowed to land in your heart. So the flag of Krishna conception, landing in the heart. And he said, and then Krishna will declare, the whole heart is mine, and I won't tolerate any trespassers. And gradually Krishna conception will overtake the heart. So, repurposing those very senses that are, we can say, by their misuse, we've become entangled in a never-ending web of impending karmic reactions. It appears that it's insurmountable, inescapable. So that Krishna, who's promising this sort of shelter and protection, what is his other name? Govinda, Rishikesha. And this is good news for us, because Govinda generally will say, oh, it means who gives pleasure to the cows or pleasure to the senses. Rishikesh, the controller of the senses, the lord of the senses. And that's true. But what it means more specifically is he's the epitome of the senses. The Lord in that sense, and pleasure in that sense of ultimately what is to be seen or heard or talked about. Right? So all of these senses, through devotional activities, rather than becoming a source of entanglement, can be a source of liberation. That's the idea. Right? So, Rupa Goswami says, Sarvapadi vinirmuktam, quoting Narada, tatparatena nirmalam, rishikena rishikesha sevanam, bhakti ruchate. That sarva upadi, upadi generally rendered as designation or rank, but an interesting meaning for it is also substitute. So in one sense it's saying, giving up all substitutes in our never-ending search for happiness and fulfillment and love and affection, we've substituted anything and everything except Krishna and his devotees. And are perplexed as to why we remain unhappy or unfulfilled or unloved. They're saying, Sarvapadi, when you stop substituting things other than Krishna and his devotees, and the service of Krishna and his devotees. And at the end he says, Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam, Bhakti Ruchate. You can't, it's not that you have to, how do you say, engage in sensory deprivation. Right? Meaning, these senses have got me in the troubled situation I'm in at present. I'm suffering on account of sense engagement. So let me stop all sense engagement, then I'll become free from suffering. That's more akin to Buddhism, right? To go from the negative plane to the neutral plane. But by our very nature, we'll be drawn toward the sensual, including seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, etc. Right? So the good news for us is that you can use all of these things in the service of Krishna. Savai mana Krishna padaravindeyo, vachamsi vaikunta gunanuvarnane, koro hare mandira marjanardishu, mukunda lingalaya darshane drisho. It's mentioned in the 9th canto with regard to Ambarish Maharaj, the great king, devotee king. Normally, kings are engaged in all sorts of management of their kingdom, and they hire Brahmins to do the puja, the seva, to do all those things. But in the case of Ambarish Maharaj, he had someone else manage the kingdom, and he did all the seva, the puja. So that's what it says in the verse. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayo. His mind was always thinking of the lotus feet of Krishna. Vachamsi vaikunta gunanuvarnane. With his speech, he was always singing the glories of the Lord. And mandira marjanardishu. He was cleaning the temple. worshiping Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane Drisho, always worshiping the deity. He did all of these things. So, in the Prapannajivanamritam, in conclusion, I could say, in the Prapannajivanamritam, in the introduction, Guru Maharaj says, Bhakti Sarvam Iti Usi Jividera Kainkarjam Krishna Padaika Shruyatam Sharanagati Bhagavat Bhakti Tat Sarvam, saying everything can be achieved by surrender. So many different things are described in different places, but the purpose of this book was to bring this message that through the single act alone of offering oneself in service, to surrender, that you'll achieve everything. Right? And to make it more personal and to the point, in the perhaps 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada gives a whole list of things that markers of, say, achievement and advance, making progress in spiritual life. And when you read them, at least myself, one by one, you think, oh, it's hopeless. Look at this. There's so many things, and I have none of them. But then the last thing he says is, what does he say? Guru, how does it go? Guru Bhaktya Purusho Hyanjaso Jayet. Etat Sarvam Guru Bhaktyo Purusho Hyanjaso Jayet. He said, however, you can achieve everything by Guru Bhakti, by devotion to Guru. So, whatever our disqualifications might be, to whatever degree we're not surrendered, Srila Gurudev was accepting anyone and everyone who would render even the least sort of service in promoting the glories of his Guru Maharaj. His life, his existence was to serve the lotus feet of his Guru Maharaj. And he was accepting others, however unsurrendered or unqualified they might be, and bringing them in connection with that divine service. Right? And had a very generous vision, the most generous vision on top of it all. If someone was doing absolutely nothing, and some devotees were kind of wondering about that, and would ask him, they'd ask Srila Govinda Maharaj, what about so-and-so? And he'd say, he is doing prasadam seva. So he had this most generous vision that if nothing else, he's doing prasadam seva. We should not use that as an excuse. But even that will bring one to the surrendered stage. The sweetness. They won't be able to forget that. Just like when speaking of the 4 Kumaras before, I feel I have to say something in glorification of them after the intro. That when they were on the gates of Vaikuntha, another time, says, Tasyaravinda Nayanasya Padaravinda Kinjalka Mishra Tulasi Makaranda Vayu Antargata Swavivarena Chakara Tesham Sankshobhyam Akshara Jusham Api Chitta Tanvo. So when they smelled the aroma, just the aroma of the lotus feet of the Lord mixed with tulsi makaranda vayu, just that fragrance that entered them and completely carried them away to another domain, the Vaikuntha world. So again, a sense activity, smelling the fragrance of the lotus feet of the Lord, mixed with a little tulsi. How potent are the activities of Krishna consciousness? So if we just stay connected, Prabhupada's, one of his favorite examples was iron and fire. Because they're saying, we're iron-like, we have no hope. We're like, the worst base metal. And he'd say, if you hold that iron rod in the fire, keep it in the fire, inevitably it will become like fire. So the Vaishnavas and their Seva, they're sometimes compared to what in Sanskrit is called sparshamani, means philosopher's stone. In English, sometimes called touchstone, but philosopher's stone, meaning coming in connection with this, you become transformed. That's our hope. We sing it in the song every day. Yogyata vichare kichu nahi pai. If you examine me, you will find nothing of value, nothing to salvage. Right? But tomara korunasar. But you, I believe in you. And the what is it? Mahadadbhuta pavana shakti padam. The inconceivably, wonderfully purifying power of the service of your holy lotus feet. That I believe in. I don't believe in myself, but I believe in the power of your holy lotus feet and their service and their connection. Right? So we find in the statements of some of the great devotees, when they're making an appeal to the Lord for their particular case, they will say that if you really want to test the purifying power of your mercy, I don't think there's any more suitable candidate than me. Then you can really make some, propaganda. You can advertise that, because the worst possible, don't start with someone who's, moderately flawed or moderately sinful. They're saying, my case, take me, and then that'll be such an example to the world that your mercy purified someone like me. So we don't think of them that way, but that's their sort of strategy. So if this sort of thing being expressed here is real, then it should lead one in the direction of surrender. Right? That's the conclusion. And he said, but I'm just unable to, I'm not a real devotee. Well, try it. Try. You don't know. When Krishna had a headache in Dwaraka, and he tells Narada, Narada said, what happened? And Krishna said, oh, such a headache I have. I need the foot dust of a devotee. That's the only thing that will cure this. And Narada approaches the queens of Dwaraka. He's saying, Krishna is suffering so much from a headache. He needs the feet dust from a devotee, please. And the queen, what? Take we were just talking about that. You mean, so now the lowest part of myself I'll give to Krishna? Never. And besides, Narada, you're a devotee. We've read the books. You're one of the greatest devotees of all time. Give your feet dust. And Narada returns. And Krishna is still suffering. Narada, hurry up, give me that. He said, oh no one will give. Right? They think the consequence of sprinkling their feet dust on you would be eternal hell. They won't do it. He's saying, then go to Braja. Sharanam Braja. Sarvadharmam parichaja mamekam sharanam Braja. Braja sharanam. the type of sharanagati of the braja-gopis. He wanted him to see that. Don't you see, all these instances, Krishna is finding an excuse to take someone to the lotus feet of the braja-gopis. Oh, I have a headache, oh, then go there. They try everything else, and then they go, what is he trying to show? How exalted they are, that they're the topmost devotees, and the least connection with them is of the utmost value. And then we're told, he goes to Vrindavan, the gopis saying, how is Krishna? Our Krishna? Our Krishna? And he's saying, generally he's doing well, but today, not today. Today he's suffering from a horrible headache, and he said, only the feet dust of a devotee will cure him. So he sent me here. And what do they say? Some gopis say, I don't know if I'm a devotee, but take my feet on. You don't know if you're no, I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay. This is the real uncertainty principle that an aspiring devotee must learn to live with, to never know if you're a devotee. Guru Maharaj says, when you think you're a devotee, you're finished. Don't think that about others. We're talking about ourselves. If you think you're a devotee, and Guru Maharaj didn't say, well, that's unhealthy. That's not what he said. He said, if you think you're a devotee, you're finished. Right? So the real devotees never think that they possess devotion. So when he asks, I don't know if I'm a devotee or not, but then here. And he's saying, well, if you're not, then that means I take the dust from you and put it on Krishna, you're going to hell forever. And Guru Maharaj, they said, we may suffer eternal hell, but if Krishna will get some relief, that is our only concern. And we've come full circle back to what is pure devotion. I say, it doesn't matter about us and what is our fate and our future. And that isn't our concern. Our concern is what will make Krishna happy. That's what Krishna wanted Narada to see. That type of, how do you say, self-oblivion, not self-annihilation. Self-oblivion means to be so wholly given over to the other as if to not have any independent concept of self, yet to still be an individual. Hare Krishna. Jai. Braja-gopis ki. Jai. Gopi bhava rasamritam dilahari. Kalola magno muhur bande rupa sanatano raguyago shijiva go palago. Hare Krishna. Remember, that's what it says. Srinivasa Charja, about the sixth Goswami. Gopi bhava rasamritam dilahari. Drowning in waves of the ecstatic emotions of the braja-gopis. Deeper and deeper levels of self-surrender. Hare Krishna.